Hey, welcome to the Colin Grace Show. Back for episode 6. This is episode 6 with Lee Blaine, one of my favorite 80s of all time. We've been through the gutters, we've been through the trenches, we have climbed to Mount Olympus and have gotten kicked off the top. Lee, why don't you introduce yourself a little more? Tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Well, didn't expect that. I'm Lee Blaine, originally from Texas. I've been out in California since '85. I've crawled my way up through the business. I've been working as a first AD for over 3 decades, and was fortunate enough to meet Josh with a whole circle of grips who are just fantastic, professional, and tight, and genuine human beings. And I'm flattered as all hell that you've asked me to do this, to tell you the truth.
No, I mean, when I think about when I think back about some of the funnest jobs I've ever been on and some of the craziest, obviously the craziest, you've always been there.
Yeah,
I like to this day, my favorite image of you when I think about you, and to this day, I like the first thing that comes in my head is you pulling up to the safety meeting, riding on a electric cooler, like a cooler scooter. It was like four. It was like an igloo cooler with four wheels, electric motor, and you drove up on it to give the safety meeting. And I was just like, this guy rules. I was like,
what job was that? Was that one of Brent's? I don't remember.
oh yeah, that was a Brent
Okay,
job. No,
Santa
We
Anita.
were at Seattle. No,
Yeah.
Santa Anita Racetrack.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it was like that big dumb green screen, nightmare. It was a typical Nissan. God bless Nissan. Like they were
yeah.
great
Hey,
jobs.
they paid the mortgage for a
Hey
while
man,
there.
I rolled with Nissan for a long time, and I
Yeah,
and I still to this day back it up. Like those were great jobs. They were done well. But it's funny,
yeah.
like I just remember you rolling up to the safety meeting, riding on your cooler. And then I found out I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, I don't know if people realize like this is a huge parking lot. It's probably the
Yeah.
biggest tarmac parking lot in LA that I can think of to film in, like Los Angeles general area. I mean, that parking lot for Sanity Racetrack and the mall. Because
Huge.
I've done and I've done Billboard Music Awards. We did the weekends film like the weekend the band the weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did their spot for the Billboard Music Awards in there, and it was the only spot we could find that had enough tarmac to do the vehicles driving around. But you rolled up on your scooter. And I was
Well,
like, that's not even a scooter. I was like, that's a goddamn cooler.
I
And
think a lot.
and pulled the safety meeting. I was like, that was awesome.
I got so many friends with knee problems who are younger than me, and I think part of it is if we were going to be at the Downey stages or at Santa
Yep.
Anita, someplace
Oh
like
yeah.
that, I took my bicycle. I took that cooler. There's no way on
Yep.
God's green earth I'm going to walk 200 yards to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom. So that was kind of the driving force on that. But yeah, that was a gift to me from Douglas Avery, a director I worked with for years. He unfortunately passed away last year from cancer. And then Matt Caltabiano, the producer, they gave that to me on my 50th birthday. And it was full on white trash NASCAR redneck because they put like the naked lady from the mud flaps on the back of
Yeah,
the
I
seat.
saw
So
that thing. It was awesome. Dude, I love that thing.
I had to install a key to the ignition because initially it was just a switch, but I had to put a key on it because I'd take that thing to set. The next thing I know, the ad agency or some PA would be
Oh
off
yeah,
to
I was
God
about to
knows
say
where
the
on it.
PAs are gone with it.
Yeah, I'd come out, the battery be dead. Because if I was shooting in Pasadena, I'd ride it to work.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and once it was dead because they played with it all day.
That's amazing. Sun up to sundown. Like,
Same job. We're out on the dry lake bed and we're going to do some armed car work. And
yep.
I tell my second AD, Brad Ewing, solid human.
Love Brad.
He's my brother from another
No,
mother.
I love Brad.
I said, chase them in a van. You can
Yep.
see for miles out here. Just try and figure out where they're going to be and stay out of the shot. I got to go to the motorhome and do tomorrow's call sheet because we had a full
And
company move down to
yeah.
someplace.
And at that point, me and my guys, we were wrapping all the trucks. Like
Yeah,
because we had the green screens on all the trucks. And we were gonna put them back on, but no, we were going to
someplace down
Ontario
near
Airport the
Riverside.
next
Or,
day.
yeah, that's what it was. The
So
airport.
we were actually wrapping everything. So we
Yeah,
were in full wrap mode and
yeah,
they took off and you
yeah.
went to the motorhome. Yeah.
And I got my Ram parked out of the motorhome and I'm working
I
on the
remember
call
this
sheet.
story very well.
And I get this radio call from Brad, I can hardly understand because he's so far away. And all I hear is accident, armed car. I'm like, fuck. I jump, grab my, and there's an agency guy in the motorhome with me, and he hears
Yeah.
this in the fifth wheel. And, okay, I can believe you. I said, yeah, come on. So I'm not waiting for you. And I jump in the truck and I just take off like a bat out of hell in the general direction where I think they are.
Yeah.
And it takes us forever to get out there. And as I'm coming up, I see all the guys
Yep.
kind of milling about, nothing high energy going on, a
Yeah.
lot of looking at the ground. And the crane arm is
Yeah.
at an angle
Oh
I've
yeah.
never seen before.
No.
And so, and everybody's seen this photo. That thing got
I
around, God bless the internet.
I
Everybody
have that
knew about
photo,
it.
and I'm gonna post that photo as the sticker of this.
You should.
I
But I
will.
mean, that everybody knew about that by the next morning.
I think while you were still going out, I got a call from someone from the arm car, the one of the I think it was the driver from the arm car, and he's like, "Linky, we need you out here." And I'm sitting there going like, what, why? And I looked out, and I could see in the horizon, and I see this. I see
Yeah.
this thing sticking up in a dry middle of a dry lake bed, and I'm like, that. I know for a fact like that arm does not go like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't go that high. And I hopped in the truck. I was in the F-350 diesel, and I was like, "Bah, bah, 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 bah," and I just plowed it out there.
Yep.
And I get
That,
out there, and the PAs were already out there taking photos and selfies. Like it was all over social media so
yeah.
quick. Like the PAs were out there just like dit, 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 like doing like hey.
Can I
I
mention
got
the can
I
I
got
mention the
mine, which
DP?
unfortunately is going to be that that
Well, I
photo.
don't have a
But
selfie of it, but
no, I do. I'm gonna post it. It's actually going to be the thumbnail for this. But
can I mention the DP because he had nothing to do with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
No,
so Dave Waglash.
Dave is one of my favorite DPs. I've known him forever, and he's actually changed the film industry a lot. And we're trying to get an interview with him, but Dave, like, I don't know if you know, Dave actually changed the film industry for the drone industry. Like,
No, I didn't know that.
he's the one that introduced the FFA or yeah the flight regulations to the
Oh,
drone industry for the film industry.
good, because we needed him.
Yeah.
And there's
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of people who still don't follow
I've
him.
got stories about. Thank God. Like, thank
Yeah,
God Dave Weiger like if he had not introduced like you had to have some type of flight regulation, I think it was like you had to have a experimental pilot license or something. But I was on jobs, and there was like a point where we were ducking as drones were like hitting walls and hitting vehicles and like hitting, almost hitting actors.
what a lot of people don't get, even people in our industry don't get,
Yeah.
is that we work with things that can kill people.
Oh yeah.
And
Everything.
I served on the National Board of the Directors Guild for 20 years. So I'm up in
Hmm.
that room. They have three meetings out in LA annually, one in New York, so four total. And you're in the room with Jon Favreau and Ron
Hmm.
Howard and Steven Spielberg and Paris Barkley and Leslie Lincoln Glatter, and it goes on and on. Christopher Nolan,
Yep.
and there had been a safety issue that was. I'm not going to get into the specifics about it, but it was a discussion industry wide. It was a big problem, and we're in privacy. And I
Was it
remember
The Sarah thing or pre
it
that?
probably was, yeah. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
vague
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
Steven Spielberg spoke up with just a very simple, you go to any construction site in the United States and you're required to wear a hard hat. And we don't have anything, and I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
point was pretty direct. We don't have anything
Yeah. It's
like
true.
that in our industry
Yeah.
with the amount of stuff we've got going on. And drones were problematic because, oh, well, this is cheaper than a helicopter and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it can still send somebody to the hospital. And the big ones, they could kill somebody. But
And
anyway,
and honestly, like, I mean, I know when I got in the industry, like, I came in with the crash. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And then I actually even brought it up in another one of the interviews is, I mean, when you want to talk about helicopter stuff, I almost personally died. Me and Giles, remember Giles Dunning,
yeah,
the British Bo Duke DP. God bless him. I love him. Yeah, man, we were up in a helicopter and his 60-mile-per-hour gust, and literally we went sideways and just fell out of the sky. And literally, I mean, I the DP was trying to get me to unclick him to kick him out of the helicopter. He
yeah.
was like, if anything happens, unclick me and kick me out. But he's on the upside, so I'm leaning against. I'm not harnessed in.
Oh,
and I'm trying to kick him out and unclick him, and he's fighting me because he's trying to get out. And, and at the same time, and I don't blame him because I was like, it was fight or flight. And the AC, Vincent Foyer is like, he's sitting next to me, and he's wide eyed, and these two pilots are just like, we're in a Huey, we're in a World War II Huey, like I'm
yeah.
sorry, Vietnam Huey. This thing's just going like, and all of a sudden all the alarms shut off, and it just went, and just came back, and we landed, and they were like, we're done. And I was like, thank God, like we all clicked and got out, but I was the only one, like everyone was in a seat or attached, and I was
Yeah.
the only one in the helicopter, like free floating as the grip, like to hold the camera and pull stuff, and it was terrifying,
I
man.
never got in one of the helicopters by choice. There was an AD I knew. Anytime he worked with a chopper, he made a point of getting in because he could call hazard pay.
Yep,
But I mean, come on, $150. Two-thirds, and I'm not making this number up,
yep,
two-thirds of my favorite helicopter pilots, because they were smart and they were safe and they flew by the industry guidelines,
yep,
died in helicopter accidents. One of the guys who later died actually had a controlled crash with my buddy Eddie Braun, and they were able to walk away from that one.
yep.
But a few years later, it didn't work out so well for him. Those things are, they're serious. But
Well, I mean, Fitzy, right?
yeah,
Michael Fitz. So
yeah,
Fitzy's he started a new whole scene. I don't really know. I don't want to give too much details out, but I know that he's got his own thing going on now, and K2's with him, and I mean K2's like legend, and
yeah.
I did a helicopter gig with them for Apple, and it was awesome, and it was like one of the best jobs I've ever had. Like flying around as the crew chief in a Blackhawk, like up in Mammoth for like a week,
I haven't seen
shooting an
Fitz.
Apple commercial. It
I
was
was talking about
amazing,
Fitz
dude.
yesterday because I haven't seen him in a while, and
Yeah.
I'm not giving
Oh,
anything away.
he's
He's
so
doing
good. He's a
aerial
legend.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, he's the arm car aerial guy. Like you want amazing arm car stuff, you want amazing aerial stuff. Like it's like he's the guy. I mean, there's a reason he did Top Gun too.
yeah, there
And
is,
there's a
and
reason he did Devotion, you know.
he's smart and he's focused. But this,
Yeah.
him and Dave Wagreich, for me,
Yeah.
I met Dave when I was
And
at PA.
Dave's a pilot too. It's
Yeah,
kind of funny there. It's I didn't even think about it. They're both pilots.
and I met Fitz when he was Joe Pitka's second AC, and I was the production manager. But I've always felt like you treat everybody well because you don't know when you're going to cross paths with them again. And I ended up ADing for, Fitz years later, doing
Yeah.
some phenomenal commercials. But the Wagreich thing with the arm, I want to get back to that. So
Yeah.
we're out in
Yeah.
the middle of the desert. You're out there. This arm's going straight up. We've got half the guys trying to figure out how to get the camera down. And God bless Brent said no. Nobody is going to put themselves at risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yep.
thing can stay up there
Well,
until
and
the
Brent
thing gets
owned
ready.
that camera.
Yeah.
That
And
was he owned that camera.
he was fine leaving it there because he didn't want to risk his crew.
And just
Um,
so everyone knows, Brent was the director. So
yes,
the director owned the camera. The camera's on the end of the arms off the arm car. Just to
but
get
not
back to the
only not
story.
only the arm,
Sorry. Yeah.
the whole motor assembly with the plate that mounts on the roof
No,
is
yeah.
off,
It
and the weight bucket or whatever was at the back end of it smashed through the rear
the
window and just
gear.
yeah,
It was the arm gear because I have
yeah,
the photo of it. It went through, and the second AC or the first AC
first
was
AC
in
focus
the
pulley.
trunk. Yeah.
And it gave him serious PTSD because when we moved
It
to the
did.
airport and for the remainder of that job, I had to just calmly talk to him and
Oh
say,
yeah. He
I got
was
to know if you're comfortable
no.
doing this.
He got
It,
messed up on that job.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, he didn't get hurt, but
No.
there's psychological damage.
Sure. Yeah.
I went to Wagreich and I said, so what happened? He says, we're driving across the lake bed and I hear this ka-thunk, ka-thunk. He says, I thought the back hatch was open. And then suddenly everything
Yeah.
starts to arm up and tilt up. And he's telling the guys, but I'm not doing that. The next thing they know, the whole thing just goes cattywampus. And I won't name the driver, who I really liked because
he
Grip became a driver.
yeah, no, after that job and he got blackballed, I hired him as a grip driver. Like,
What is that? What happened? I thought he quit the company. He got blackballed.
no, they booted him, and I which
That
was
was not
it's
his fault.
absolute BS. It was so out of his ballpark. And the second I found out, I immediately like I started hiring him. I was like, yeah, dude, I got your back. Like, but he just they just he basically he wasn't allowed to drive the cars anymore because of that.
Well, he figured out pretty quickly what happened, and so did Brent,
We
because
oh
they had
yeah, we
evidently
all
taken
we
the
all
arm off
did.
to
Yeah.
work on it in the shop. They put it back on. They put the bolts on, but they didn't put the nuts on because
Do
Brent had
you
to.
remember we walked in a line? We
Yeah.
walked in a line, so because you could see the tire tracks
Yep.
from base camp to the incident, and we all went arm in arm and walked all the way back.
And I think that was Brent's idea because he searched the cab of the truck of
I think
the
it was
whatever
Brent's
it was,
idea. Yeah.
and couldn't find the nuts, and said, "Well, we got to find out, you know." And he found the bolts, and they weren't
Hmm.
sheared and they weren't
Nope.
stripped.
Nope.
That pisses me off. They did that to the
No.
driver because he was a solid guy, still is. He was on the Warner
He got
Brothers backlot with me
he's
recently.
one of the best guys ever, and like and
Yeah.
I did everything I could to hire him anytime I could. Um, and he just got burned on it all.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well, going back to like not naming names,
but here's the one thing I will say.
yeah.
Uh, it did bump the safety standards up for all of not just that company, but all of the arm cars.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
it suddenly changed their whole perspective of how they do business. There's checklists that popped up. Suddenly it was like, obviously it would just would never. It's like an airline accident. When a plane crashes, they find the problem, they write a report, and they send out all these bulletins, and they're like, this will never happen again. And we trust in that. And it could happen again,
Yeah.
but generally now you have like bulletins saying like, hey, look, this happened. Everyone in the airline's like, don't let this ever happen again. Here's the fix. Here's the solution.
Well, this is
So
interesting
there,
to hear you say this
yeah.
because I
I
never
mean,
thought to
I was
follow
part
up
of
on that.
I was part of some of the conversations about it. So
Uh,
because I was the key grip on the job. So
yeah.
they contacted me, and I was like, yeah, I'm like,
Well, I'm glad that had ripples in the industry because I've always been really big on. I can tell you all kinds of stories how anything that we work with has probably killed or crippled somebody in this business, but I didn't know that that thing. But and you need those
how
stories to
about
tell
two
people.
guys with hip replacements?
Yeah, exactly. And
Guilty.
two shoulder replacements.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
Jesus.
when somebody wants to propose something stupid,
Yeah.
the key grip, the AD is smart. You got to stand there and say, no, here's why.
Yeah.
Well, how often does that happen? Once is enough.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that caused a change. That's good to know. That really
Yeah.
is.
No, it really did cause change. Like they actually changed the whole policy, and like now there's a massive checklist of like a point A to B point checklist. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember like during that day they originally the AC should have been in the passenger seat like it is in every other armed car. And for some reason that day they showed up super early in the morning, like way early, and they took all the machinery out of the back where normally the arm guy sits in the trunk.
Yeah.
That's on every arm car I've ever worked on. And they took it all out and moved it to the passenger seat.
Huh. Experience is another word for the mistakes that people make. And I think it's valid that people hear this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I left out of the story is I remember yelling over the radio for the medic to get moving. And my focus when we get out there is anybody injured and checking on
Right.
people.
Yep.
And I wanted to know what happened. And I looked at what was going on. I talked to Brent. I talked to you
Wait,
guys.
by the
But
time I got out there, he was the AC was out of the trunk,
yeah,
and he was stripped down to his boxers, and Rob was pouring water over him.
yeah.
And
Because
and and I all I did was I got out there, and they were asking me to pull the thing down. I don't know if you were, yeah, you left because you were like, you were like, no, and you were like, I got to go fill out a bunch of paperwork. Like this is because it was like there was nothing you could do, and there was
yeah, but
nothing anyone else could do, and but no one wanted to hear it. Like no
if
one
any
wanted to hear
if I had been there and somebody said let's pull this thing
it.
down, and I don't remember if I was or I wasn't, I would have said
No,
no.
you had left, and you were like you had to go back to the motorhome because there was nothing you could do out there.
Yeah,
And I was basically left in charge out there, and everyone's like trying to talk me into pulling down because they wanted to get the for one thing they wanted to get the camera off, and I
how
was
much
just
do they
like,
think they? Okay, so what's a human life
well, because
worth?
we
What's
needed it in
somebody's
the
back
morning,
worth?
so
Yeah,
I
come on though.
oh
Yeah,
dude, so I ended up like I I basically ran back in the truck, grabbed all the ropes and ratchet straps I had, came back, and I started throwing ropes. I started throwing lines over the whole thing and lashing it. And I lashed it down and ratchet strapped it. And I got it to the
yeah,
point where at least I knew it wasn't going to shift and cause any, hurt anybody or fall off or the camera get hurt because I knew that
Yeah.
was, it's just director's camera, it's director's, and all the footage of the day was in there like that. And like for some reason I don't think we it was at least half the footage of the day.
Uh,
And I was just like, all right. And I kind of looked around and I was like, you need to get a trucker in here, like a wrecker, sorry.
yeah.
Like, like a full wrecker. And I know that I left at 4:35 p.m. I went back, grabbed my best boy Joe, and then we went down to Ontario Airport, wherever the hotel was down there.
Yeah.
And before I went to bed, I called and I was checking in on them because I called the driver. And he's like, "Yeah, we're still waiting on a wrecker." Because the first one that showed up, he's like, "I got a
Refused.
brand new tow truck." And he goes, "I'm not driving down this dirty road."
Yep.
And he
Sure.
turned around.
And so then it took however long to find somebody else and get them out there. I remember
Yeah,
that too. Yeah, because I got that
yeah,
call in the middle of the night.
yeah. It was like I don't think that camera got taken off that crane until like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I think
Yeah.
we had like a 7 a.m.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it was one
Yeah.
of the most brutal experiences. But I mean,
God,
not for us, but it was like emotionally, it was like, oh man, it was a roller coaster because it's like
it was.
you're sitting there going like, you want to help, but I was also like, someone's going to go to court, and I was like, if I touch this, it could be me. And I was like, I'm not certified or qualified to touch this any more than I'm going to make it safe. And I got a, by the way, I got a 7 a.m. call. I'm like, I got to go.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I made it safe and I bailed.
That's all you should do. You
Mm.
know, God, the number of times I've been in this business where somebody wants to push the envelope and I've had to say, no, we're not going to do that. And I'm
Number
the
of
bad guy.
times, I'm
Yeah.
like,
But somebody's got to be the adult in the room because,
right.
that
But
you just
you
said
are the adult.
you said the key thing though. You had a 7 a.m. call. The whole point is you want to live to
Yeah.
see the next day, you know? And great, the camera's up there and the footage, whatever, but and God bless Brent. He didn't give a damn about that.
No, no.
He understood what was in the balance. If I
Well, I
remember
mean,
correctly,
he was a key grip. So,
yeah,
he was I knew him as a grip. He became a key grip. Well, it's very funny. I mean, like he was a grip, but the only time I ever knew him as a key grip, and he rolled with the old school guys. He got called to key second unit for War of the Worlds.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. So that okay. So
Wow.
yeah. So he taps me in to best second unit for War of the Worlds for him. So suddenly Brent's keying second unit for War of the Worlds. I'm besting it. And we went on a maniac rampage. And Brent. God bless Brent. But Brent's like, and I'm like, hey man, this is a feature. Like we have to fill out paperwork, and there's things that have to be done. He's trying to do it like a commercial, which I get. It's that's how we worked.
Yeah.
Commercials like hey, tell a dollar grip go over here and do something. It's like no, he's the dollar grip. Like he doesn't do that. It's like, oh, I need this right now. Go just go hop in your car and go grab it, or just go tell the pass van to go pick it up. It's like that's commercial.
Yeah.
This is a feature. Like I have to fill out forms. And eventually, like we were so over budget, they shut second unit down on War of the Worlds. Like
Well, that was
we
this
went we went beyond. Like I was sitting there going like I remember the producer came and yelled at me. He sat me down in my trailer and gave me the riot act, and I was like, and this is my first big movie, and
yeah.
I'm Bessie, and I was just like, hey man, I'm like, look, you're yelling at the best boy. I was like, you need to go yell at these guys. He goes, nope. He goes, this is not how these work over here. He's like, we yell at you, and I was like, God damn it. I was like, this sucks.
Was that all
And
I'm guessing that's all the battle stuff at that ranch north of
it was the
LA?
underwater. It was all the water stuff. Is when it all went
Oh,
awry. That's
wow.
where all the money went. Just
Okay.
like when the ferry. There's a
Yeah.
spot where the ferry goes down. All anything with water involved was where the money just went. Just I had 16 divers working for me. I had Soda and all the boys working for me for like, I mean, those guys are in the water 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
and they all got the tank funk. There was all types of horrible things that happened.
Jeez.
And it's like a picture stage 22 at uni, the lower stage by the parking lot that used to be
Yeah.
there. Okay, they pulled the whole floor and flooded it all. And then we lit the whole thing over the head with Image 80s. It was like it was a sea of light. I mean, it was you got to realize how dumb and big it was. It was awesome. It's like it's how movies were done. It
Yeah.
was like
But
Avatar done manually, not
you and I,
digitally.
we weren't on it, but was 22 the stage where the inner space accident with the Condor happened?
No, that was over at Sony.
I thought that was at Universal,
Mm, well,
where the
oh wait, inner
Condor,
space?
yeah, where the Condor crashed through the tank.
I don't know. I mean that
And
I know that Paramount is all hollow floors. Uni's got hollow floors.
yeah,
It might have been.
the old Warner Hollywood over near the Formosa. See, my thing
Oh yeah.
was anytime
Oh.
we did scouts, I'd always call my second Brad and say, okay, when we wrap, this is where the bar is. So
Yeah, yeah.
Warner Hollywood's next to the Formosa.
Yeah. Dude, my buddy bought the Formosa. He
Really?
bought, yeah, yeah. He owns the Bigfoot Lodge. He owns
Oh, wow.
they have a group called 1943 or something,
Yeah,
34. Sorry boys, sorry if I fucked it up. But it's the year of probation. That's their company name. But
I
they own the
love that.
Bigfoot Lodge. They own like they own a bunch of like hot Hollywood places, but
Yeah.
they're pretty great.
Bigfoot's another good one.
No, Bigfoot's like I
Yeah.
grew up there.
Um, I'm a
Please
big
do.
believer, and this gets back to my association with you. I gotta say,
Oh,
when you went off to do Deadliest Catch, I
yeah.
was so scared for you, and I was so concerned for you because I know that was wild. You got a jib arm on that boat. I mean, you're smart, and I know you're going to be safe, but there's so many uncontrollable elements on something like that. Um, but
I called my parents every day before I went out because
yeah,
it like it was I won't lie, like there was some days we're sitting in the harbor and doing friggin' nothing, and all of a sudden they're like, We promise we're never going out past the breakwater," and then it's like we're fucking out there, and I've got a PA like standing there hiding, watching me, and the only reason he's there is so that if I fall off the boat, he tells them to stop and go back and get me.
that's
Yeah,
just the way you are. You're cool. You don't get ruffled. You don't blow
yeah,
up. And I'm thinking, motherfucker, this isn't, um, I learned I tried to structure myself based on how I was treated coming up in the business. And you
yeah.
always take note of things that just didn't sit right, things that weren't polite, things that weren't proper, things that weren't respectful. And I thought to
Surrounded by
myself,
him,
I'm
surrounded by him.
never, yeah, but you're the kind of person,
Yeah, you
and
shove it off.
I've known you for years. You shove it
Yeah,
off, but you also know I'm not going to do that to other people. You don't
no, you
pass it
won't.
down. You don't pay
You've
that.
always you've been the number one protector of crew that I've ever worked with. Like one of my top ADs of like when you're on set, I never have to worry about. I never have to worry about shit.
Well, thank you for
No,
saying
I
that.
mean, and that means a lot. Like, I mean, seriously, like we've had cranes, 100 ton construction cranes, shit flying over, and I tell you, and I'm like, hey man, it's too windy. Like, we gotta replan this, and everyone's screaming, no, 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 and you're just like, the boss says this is not safe. Like, the guy who's in charge of the thing over your head that'll kill all of us says it's not safe, then it's not safe.
Yeah,
But I've been with other dudes that are like, "No, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's all tied down." It's like
it only takes once. I mean, anytime that you and anybody would go out on a
it
process
only
trailer.
takes once.
Yeah, we're on a process trailer. Everybody thinks it's laissez-faire. This is easy, no big deal. I asked the driver, "Are we cool?" But I turn to the key grip and I always ask, "Are we okay to pull out?"
Yep,
Because there's people on a moving vehicle that aren't harnessed in. We were in contract negotiations back.
I've seen someone fall off a process trailer. I
Yeah, it's back around 2000, and the whole conversation came up about hazard pay and the whole bit, and we got to talking about uh, all that stuff.
no,
And I said, yeah, that's hazardous. I said, anything faster than a Fisher 10 pushed by two grips
yeah,
is a hazard.
it's
I don't care if you're going 20 or
true.
25 miles an hour on an
It's true.
insert car. Something happens, you're toast.
Yeah,
I hated it when they would put a techno crane on those things. And I'm always sitting underneath the back ass end of it, and it just terrified the hell out of me.
Well, I
But
mean,
I just,
the reality is the arm cars saved the grips because back in the day it used to be the shot maker with the techno on the back, and that was the most dangerous thing. Or the Apollo with someone riding on the back,
yeah.
which I've done.
But there's all these jokes about different departments and just about the ADs being yelling assholes and the key grips being this and that. And I don't look at it that way. You guys in your craft, your category, you can go anywhere in the world, and with the proper tools, you can pull off anything. And
Yep.
you've got to give respect to that. And the whole point, I want to have fun. And I've had producers get mad at me because they think I'm joking around too much. Fuck them. Um, but you want to treat the people you're working with respect because they're going
Yeah.
to have your back. I'll have that's we all want to walk away, and when you walk into the hotel and there's a bar, and if the grips and electrics are sitting in the bar and they ask you to come over and have a drink
Yeah.
with them,
You done something right.
yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to say that because your category is, in my opinion, underappreciated. Nobody outside of our industry understands what you guys do,
Yeah.
and it's very hard to explain. But you are kings as far as I'm concerned in the film world.
But I always look at the AD like you got to realize I actually started as an AD. Like I was the
Yeah.
second on on I did oh god, what was that horrible show?
Well, that's a
MTV
long
Undressed.
list.
No, MTV
Yeah.
Undressed.
Yeah.
I was the second AD on MTV Undressed,
Oh,
and I
wow.
actually ended up like working as the first AD for a lot of the stuff because the first AD like her kid was a nightmare and he'd get dragged off like she get a phone call of like my son's gonna kill somebody and like my nanny's freaking out and she'd just be like you got this and she'd leave and I was really good friends with the producer just because I was his main set PA
Yeah.
and he was also the producer of the show and he was like I don't care he's like yeah all right you run it like I was like 17 I guess I was like 18 19 years old and like literally running this show and I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I would snowboard all winter and work in the film industry in the summers to heal up.
That's
But
like,
yeah, no, MTV Undressed is like to this day, like every time I work at Hollywood Center Studios, I just want to like I'm just like I cringe. I cringe. It was the hardest, worst show. Like I watched two full crews get fired off that of DPs. Like they just wiped the entire G&E and DP crew off. And the real second AD, the reason I got the job is he was dating one of our friends and he started coming up to Mammoth and snowboarding with me.
yeah.
And he was best friends with my sponsor from 686 Snowboard Clothing Company. Now the owner, Mike West of the 686, used to date the Pink Power Ranger, and he was the second AD on the Power Rangers. So the reason, hey, if you really look at it, the reason I'm actually in the film industry, if you really dial it back, is because of the Power Rangers. I can I can tie my I can tie my film career absolutely to the Power Rangers, which is asinine. And honestly, dialed into truly the Pink Power Ranger. Like
I was gonna
it
say I
was
like the
her.
fact it's the pink one. That's
Well, because she's
comedy.
Asian, so the owner of 686 is Asian. So like there,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
there's a reason. Yeah, but it was
God almighty.
one of the funniest things. Like, I mean, I moved down to LA like as a broken snowboarder, uh, and I worked as a PA, and like we did, before we did MTV Undressed, we did AMC The Lot, and that's where I
Oh,
met Dave Levitch, my best boy.
I've got I don't know how I came across it. Somebody was given this and they gave it to me. I've got a promotional flask that was put out for the lot, and I actually
Yeah,
used it last week. I don't have a drinking problem. I'm just going on record. I was out with a
yes.
friend in the middle of
I don't have a
nowhere,
problem.
but
I got plenty of booze. What are you talking about?
drink up,
I'm
Shriners.
nowhere near out.
But the fun to me, you've touched on so many different things that you could make a whole show about. Like the fact that they came in and they fired entire departments on that. You're not the problem. The
Yes.
people who are at the top who aren't getting things in control and understand that this is a business that can function in a certain way,
No.
they're the problem. Anyway,
I
that's
mean, yeah, you got to look at it. It's like I don't know, man. I think the crew is the least of the problems in the film industry these
yeah,
days.
I
I
agree.
think, um, here I'm gonna actually look up something that you're really gonna hate to hear about. New Jersey is like has a 30% tax increase. and they're pumping $600 million from Netflix or Amazon. I'm not sure which one. But they're building a studio. So New Jersey is the new hotspot. So everyone went from LA to New Orleans, and then they went to Georgia. Guess what? Guess where they're all going? They're all
Jersey.
going to New York or New
And
Jersey.
for
Yep.
for a brief moment, it was Detroit until Michigan killed the film credits, and then it
Well,
stopped.
Florida had a little window, but it just
Yeah.
crept up into Georgia. Like, and the once Georgia, like, Georgia's film credit like really held strong. They built all the studios, but then they've started to retract, which is why everyone's up in currently everyone's filming it in Canada and Mexico.
Well, Marvel
Mostly in
left.
Canada right now, but
Marvel left Georgia and went to London. They're at the studios
you're right.
just north of London because I mean, but
Well, here's the thing: is this the studios in Georgia are the same studios as in London.
yeah,
It's another Pinewood. So for them, it's like they just transferred over.
that's a
So
hell of a facility though. If you look it up, the one in England, oh my God. It drives me nuts. I've been involved in the Directors Guild's contract negotiations for our national commercial contract since 2000.
mhm,
And I got into it because our contract sucked. It didn't represent our actual work experience. They lifted language off of something that I guess from the feature contract that didn't apply to us.
yeah,
And none of our members had been involved in our negotiations prior. And so we've had a lot of stellar people step up over the last 2.5 decades. But at some point, reality with things like the LA Film LA,
mhm,
it's got
yeah,
to kick in.
yeah.
The
Well,
sad thing
I
is,
mean,
well,
here's the problem:
another
is that
discussion.
Film LA Film LA is a company that was built by itself. They went to check your phone, check your phone, and see what I just sent you, because I want to hear your comment on this. Um, so Film LA created their own company.
Yeah.
It's a for-profit industry, and all they have done is ruin filming in LA. And I can stand there. I can sit here and just back that conversation up for miles.
You and I have dealt with this. Well, I've dealt with it. I don't know if it affects the grips because I'm the one who gets yelled at first. Then I bring over the producer and location manager when we show up in people's neighborhoods because they think anything with this industry is an endless font of money. But features and TV shows and commercials aren't on the same plane.
Right,
And everybody's got their hand out. And to
right.
see this pisses me off because if you want to be film friendly, you get this shit's got to go. This is
But
wrong.
you can look at that chart and immediately see why you don't film in LA.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's if you go down that chart item by item, and you're a producer. Now that doesn't include any tax incentives. That's just like
Well, we don't
that's
get tax incentives for commercials in
right.
California.
But that's just a bare bones. Like what I
Yeah.
sent you is it's just a bare bones of like without any like actual true state fees that aren't even applied. Where normally like Georgia's like, hey, come shoot here, we'll give you 30%. You know,
Yeah.
like like here, have some money back. LA's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we'll take that money plus, oh, you have more money? We're gonna take that too. Like,
Well, this thinking is, oh, well, of course they're going to come here. It's Hollywood. No, they're not, motherfucker, because you
right.
can go anywhere in the world now. There are
Yep.
great crews everywhere. What was it? The Fall Guy. Did you see that last year?
No, I heard about it though.
All
It's on my
shot in
list.
Australia, Australian stunt teams, and really well done.
Yeah.
This is an international business, period. And we have
And
over
it's
the years,
very
I mean,
funny because the Fall Guy, I mean, in my mind, I used to watch the Fall Guy as a kid in the 80s. So like for me, I'm sure most people like don't even know, like they think the Fall Guy's like a new movie.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's based on an old 80s TV show that was awesome. And it's
Wait, Paul
like and
McCartney was in a band before Wings? What?
yeah, exactly. And somehow a producer would shoot an American TV show as American as the Fall Guy. You know, that's the most American show I can think of, next to like Airwolf or like A Team, and you shoot it in Australia.
Well, that's what a lot of Americans don't understand is the products they're buying, which are no longer manufactured here,
Right,
and they're being sold through advertisements that are not shot in America. I've gone
right.
to Buenos Aires
Yeah.
and shot
Love Buenos Aires,
commercials.
but
I
yeah.
do too, man.
Yeah.
The wines and the beef can't, and the crews are great, but get back to the beef. Oh my God.
Yeah,
But anyway,
yeah, yeah,
we're
right.
shooting at houses that look like they could be in the United States. So people don't know, they have no idea, they have no
Yeah,
basis. But
yeah,
we've trained crews around the world, and even if we didn't train them, there's solid crews all around the world.
yeah.
And we're competing now with Eastern Europe, with Romania, with Great Britain. Current political situation, I don't know if Canada is going to give us that incentive anymore, but yeah,
Well,
it
hey,
ain't here.
they can do whatever they want because currently a lot of our film is up there. A lot of our
Yeah.
commercials are being shot there. Like,
A lot more is going to go to Mexico though, because the peso is going to take a nosedive with all this
yeah,
crap.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's sad. I mean, I've got,
They have good crews and good studios and like
yeah.
it's I I love shooting down there. I mean, I've had nothing but good experiences filming in Mexico.
I was down there once and I had the grips and electrics who had just gotten off of Apocalypto,
I had a
and
translator though last time I was
you
there. It
did.
was hilarious.
I can say left, right, bigger,
It's another whole
smaller. I can
story.
order more beers and ask where the bathroom is. So the beer and bathroom thing are really, but the last time I was down there once around Tulum, and the producer made the mistake of turning to the director and calling the crew slow, thinking they didn't understand him. And I had to turn to the crew and say, he doesn't speak for all of us. This man is a moron. Because, like they say in New York, I got two speeds. If you don't like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one, you ain't gonna
You're
like the
gonna hate
next
the
one.
other one. Yeah,
Anyway, you got to go because I'm rambling, but I got
yeah,
to
yeah.
say, I miss you tremendously.
I missed you a lot, man. This has been great. Thank you so much, Lee Blaine, world famous.
I don't know about
He's
that.
one of the best
Charlie
people ever.
Manson is world famous too, so I don't know about
Yes.
that.
Woo-woo.
I love you,
Yeah,
brother.
so the Calling Grace podcast. Please like, please subscribe. Plenty more of this to come. And I'm sure we'll have another episode with Lee. Say bye, Lee.
Adios. Thank you
All
for
right.
having me,
See you,
Josh.
buddy.
Take care.
The best.